Alrighty, everybody, welcome into Message from the Main, and we're gonna read into Ezekiel chapter 33 and Ezekiel chapter 34. So let's just get into it, and then I'll break down the subject. I'll break down the chapters as I go along. All right. So renewal of Ezekiel's call as watchman, chapter 33. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against the land, and the people of the land choose one of their men, and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land, and blows the trumpet to warn the people, then if anyone hears the trumpet, but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head. Since they heard the sound of the trumpet, but did not heed the warning, their blood will be on their own head. If they had heed the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person's life will be taken because of their sin. But I will hold the watchmen accountable for their blood. Son of man, I have made you a watchman for the people of Israel. So hear the word I speak, and give them warning for me. When I say to the wicked person, you will surely die, and you do not speak out and dissuade them from their ways, that wicked person will die for their sins, and will not hold you accountable for their blood. But if you do warn the wicked person to turn from their ways, and they do not do so, they will die for their sins. Though you yourself will be saved, Son of man, say to the Israelites, this is what you are saying. Our offenses and sins weigh us down, and we are wasting away because of them. How then can we live? Say to them, as surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, I take no pleasure in death of the wicked, but rather that they turn from their ways and live. Turn, turn from your evil ways. Why will you die, people of Israel? Therefore, Son of man, say to your people, if someone who is righteous disobeys that person's former righteousness will count for nothing. And if someone who is wicked repents, that person's former wickedness will bring condemnation. The righteous person who sins will not be allowed to live even though they were formerly righteous. If I tell the righteous person that they will surely live, but then they trust in their righteousness and do evil, none of the righteous things that the person has done will be remembered. They will die for the evil they have done. And if I say to a wicked person, he will surely die, but they will turn away from their sins and do what is just and right. If they give back what they took in pledge for a loan, return what they have stolen, follow the decrees that give life, and do no evil, the person will surely live. They will not die. None of the sins of that person has committed will be remembered against them. They have done what is just and right. They will surely live. Yet you people say that the way of the Lord is not just, but it is their way that is not just. If a righteous person turns from the righteousness and does evil, they will die for it. And if a wicked person turns away from their wickedness and does what is just and right, they will live by doing so. Yet you Israelites say, the way of the Lord is not just, but I will judge each of you according to your own ways. All right, so with this, I'm going to break it down because we're not done with the chapter yet, but he's saying that people have this tendency of trying to overpower the Lord. They try to overpower the Lord, and they believe that what they are doing and is right. And the reality, the truth is, um, you see it happen a lot. We do a lot of stuff in this world that is not just and right. Like as of recently, there's been a lot of like, if you look at the internet, for example, there's been a lot of hatred towards certain types of people and a lot of discrimination towards certain groups that we then get some of us get seen as really really bad people because you know I sit there and I look at things sometimes when they're so biased. I'm like, well, this isn't what the Lord would have wanted for you. The Lord would have wanted something completely different. Like there's a lot of drama going on in certain communities, and certain communities are just minding their own business. So what the weird part is that some of those communities that are making the other communities look bad, they're literally the ones doing the same exact stuff that is making the other communities look bad. Like, example, the video game community has a bad reputation. All right, and I look at it like this: we get a bad reputation because we sit around and we play games. Yeah, we sometimes have a mouth on us, but I'm gonna state this: you will never see us harm another human being. We get mad, we say stuff, we speak up. You know, but how about we look at the people creating comic books or something like that? That's an example of how people can be biased towards one community, but fail to realize that they're not looking at the other community that is actually, you know, sometimes blaming the community that, it's just one big blame game, and it's like you can kind of see it on the internet. One community is getting blamed and the other one's just not, and it's totally unfair. And it really, for me, I speak up about it, and you'll see me state things in a way that some people might not like, and that's my way of saying, hey, stop blaming us for this stuff and start realizing you are reaping exactly what you're blaming everybody of. And so we see that a lot on the internet. We see that in a lot of places. And I'm not perfect, and I will state that. I make mistakes, but I'm trying not to condemn anybody else unless like, you know, it's just really hard. It's really hard to, when you look at it, to just accept that one community may be doing all this wrong when the other community that's, literally sitting off to the side doing almost the same thing, just a little bit different, aren't getting the aren't getting, aren't being looked at also. Like, what's going on here? So, that's a lot of politicking and blaming and stuff like that. It is literally something that should be looked at, because when you look at gaming and you look at comic books, they're two different mediums, yes. But one's getting blamed for something that they're probably not doing, and the other one's not getting blamed, and they just as bad as the video gamer. So just take into consideration when you are blaming somebody, think about this. If you're blaming somebody, you got to think about, have I done this? Have I made this mistake before myself? And sit there and think about how you handled that. All right, just something to think about. I, that's the best way I could put it for anybody that is misunderstanding it. All right, so let's get back to reading. Jerusalem's fall explained. In the 12th year of our exile, in the 10th month of the 5th day, a man who had escaped from Jerusalem came to me and said, the city has fallen. Now the evening before the man arrived, the hand of the Lord, get off of me, was on me, and he opened my mouth before the man came to me in the morning. So my mouth was opened, and I was no longer silent. Then the word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, the people living in those ruins and in the land of Israel are saying, Abraham was the only man, yet he possessed the land. But we are many. Surely the land has been given to us as our possessions. Therefore, say to them, this is what the sovereign Lord says. Since you eat meat with blood still in it, and look to your idol and shed blood, you should then possess the land. You rely on your sword You do detestable things, and each of you defiles your neighbor's wife. Should you possess the land, say this to them: This is what the sovereign Lord says. As surely as I live, those who are left in ruin will fall by the sword. Those out in the country will give to the wild animals to be devoured, and those in strongholds and caves will die of a plague. I will make the land a desolate waste, and her proud strength will come to an end. And the mountain of Israel will become desolate, so that no one will cross them. They will know that I am the Lord, when I have made the land a desolate waste because of all the detestable things they have done. As for you, son of man, your people are talking together about you in the walls and the doors of the houses, saying to each other, Come and hear the message that has come from the Lord. My people come to you as they usually do, and sit before you to hear your words. But they do not put them into practice. Their mouth speaks of love, but their hearts are greedy and unjust gain. Indeed, to them they are nothing more than one who sings love songs with a beautiful voice and plays an instrument well. For they hear your word, but do not put them into practice. When all this comes true, and it surely will, then they will come that they will come to know that a prophet has been among them. So the thing at the beginning that he was saying is that, like, you know, his mouth had to be opened. Okay, so for me, I've said this before. When I'm not when I see something, okay, and the Lord really, really, really needs me to speak about it, I'll have a moment where, like, I'm trying to hold something back, a statement that needs to be made out in the open to people for them to understand. And and it's one of those things where I have trouble holding my tongue, mainly because it's something that needs to be said. There were times that I've said stuff to people, and I felt the anxiety just drift away as soon as I said it to somebody. And there's some people that they don't exactly take into consideration that you'll talk to them, and because I've built up all this anxiety built up on me, and I can't hold my tongue too long, that I will end up, like, saying what I need to say to the person. And sometimes it comes off very, 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 very aggressive. And it's not me being mean. Okay, it's something in me. My heart gets hardened, and I sit there, and I end up having to speak. And it's people be like, well, why are you so mean? I'm not mean. I'm genuinely not mean. I can't help but hold my tongue because, my heart's being hardened, and there's so much irritation built up from what needs to be said that, you know, the Lord throws it onto me. And when you have that connection to the Lord, He will He will harden your heart till you're ready to speak. And then when you let that out, that's something He wants you to do, because you're going to relay a message that needs to be said back to Him. And I try not to tell people the worst stuff in the world, but sometimes they need to hear what the Lord says, and sometimes people just don't believe what I have to say, that the Lord's saying, and then eventually we see it all just play out. So, all right, so chapter 34. The Lord will be Israel's shepherd. Chapter 34. The word of the Lord came to me, Son of man, prophesy against the shepherd of Israel. Prophesy and say to them, This is what the sovereign Lord says. Woe to you, shepherds of Israel, who only take care of yourselves. Should not shepherds take care of the flock? You eat the crude, clothe yourself with the wool, and slaughter the choice animals, but you do not take care of the flock. You have not strengthened the weak, or healed the sick, or bound up the jerk. You will not, you have not brought back the strays or stretched for the lost, searched for the lost, sorry. You have ruled them harshly and brutally. So they were scattered because they were not shepherds, and when they were scattered, they became food for all the wild animals. My sheep wandered over all the mountains on every high hill. They were scattered over the whole earth, and no one searches or looked for them. Therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. As surely as I live, declares the sovereign Lord, because my flock lacks a shepherd, and so has been plundered, and has become food for all the wild animals, and because my shepherds did not search for my flock, but cared for themselves rather than my flock, therefore, you shepherds, hear the word of the Lord. This is what the sovereign Lord says. I am against the shepherds, and will hold them accountable for my flock. I will remove them from tending the flock, so that the shepherd can no longer feed themselves. I will rescue the flock from their mouths, and it will no longer be food for them. For this is what the sovereign Lord says: I myself will search for my sheep, and look after them, as a shepherd looks after his scattered flock, when he is with them. So I will look after my sheep. I will rescue them from all places where they were scattered on the day of the clouds and darkness. I will bring them out of the nations and gather them from the countries. I will bring them into their own land. I will pasture them on the mountains of Israel, in the ravine, and all the settlements in the land. I will tend to them in a good pasture, in the mountain heights of Israel will be their grazing land. They will lie down in good grazing land, and there they will feed in a rich pasture on a mountain of Israel. I myself will tend my sheep and have them lie down, declares the sovereign Lord. I will search for the lost and bring back the strays. I will bind up the injured and strengthen the weak, but the sleek and strong I will destroy. I will shepherd the flock with justice. As for you, my flock, this is what the sovereign Lord says: I will judge between one sheep and another, and between rams and goats. It is not enough for you to feed on the good pasture. Must you also trample the rest of the pasture with your feet? It is not enough for you to drink clear water. Must you also muddy the rest of your feet? Must my flock feed on what you have trampled, and drink what you have muddied with your feet? Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says to them: I myself will judge between the fat sheep and the lean sheep, because you shove the flank and shoulder, butting all the weak sheep with your horns, until you have driven them away. I will save my flock, and they will no longer be plundered. I will judge between one sheep and another. I will place over them one shepherd, my servant David, and he will tend them. He will tend them and be their shepherd. The Lord, will be their God, and my servant David will be prince among them. I, the Lord, have spoken. I will make a covenant of peace with them, and rid the land of savage beasts, so that they may live in the wilderness and sleep in the forest in safety. I will make them and place the surrounding. I will make them and the places surrounding my hill a blessing. I will send down shower in season. There will be showers of blessing. The trees will yield their fruit, and the ground will yield its crops. The people will be secure in their land. They will know that I am the Lord. When I break the bars of their yoke, and rescue them from the hands of their whole enslaved, who enslaved them. They will no longer be plundered by the nations, nor will their wild animals they be devoured. They will live in safety, and no one will make them afraid. I will provide them with I will provide them a land renowned for its crops, and they will no longer be a victim of famine in the land or bear the scorn of the nations. They will know that I, the Lord, their God, am with them, and that they, the Israelites, are my people, declares the sovereign Lord. You are my sheep, the sheep of my pasture, and I am your God, declares the sovereign Lord. So, pretty much the Lord wanted to, like, you know, again, the Lord just was talking about how, like, he wants to make sure, how do I want to put this? The animals of the land, if you haven't noticed, he was mentioned in there a lot of animals. He's gonna give the animals the best land possible. That's what he said towards the end. Um, and this is just like, the Lord wants the best for the lesser of the beings, meaning the animals are literally doing nothing wrong. The animals are gonna get the best. The human beings, however, they're doing everything wrong. And when you think about it, we have more power and we have more capabilities than animals actually do. Animals are literally like doing like literally like just being. And that's the difference between us and them. Animals don't spend money on stuff. We spend money on stuff. That's why he said the animals are going to get the best treatment available. So when you think about it, we're doing stuff that God doesn't like because we're not exactly living like animals. If we lived like animals, or if we lived in a long, long time ago, and you know, if we were built to live like animals, then we wouldn't have a problem with it. You just got to think about it that way. Animals are doing what animals do. Animals don't care. Animals aren't thinking like we do. We have a lot to learn. That's why God gave us this book. God respects us in many ways. But at the same time, God and the Lord, and like right now, we're not really listening to the Lord. And people are making this whole like Bible invalid. And it's just pretty awful to think about like how we've become a whole species that is going against what we're supposed to be about. Animals aren't getting like there's a lot of stuff that animals do that we're not doing. Okay, animals, create life. They're out there creating life. They're just not like they're not devouring the internet like we are. And that's the worst part about it is we learn from the internet. We learn from sources that aren't naturally like where we're supposed to be learning from. So we pick up and see things from the internet and stuff like that. And so when you think about it, animals are creating life frequently. We're coming to a screeching halt because people are doing stuff to change that on us. And it's sad to think about, but the human race, if things don't change, I could say that the human race within the next 500 years may not exist. And I won't be alive to see that. But we're at a stage right now where the human race is not doing what it's supposed to. And so, like, I could see the human race just not existing at some point. And it's really awful to think about. But I think animals will out survive human beings. Just, just something I'm thinking about, you know. And maybe there is some truth. Maybe God put that on my heart just now. Like, it was just a thought I had. But in the next 500 years, if we don't correct ourselves, there's going to be barely any human life left. And if barely none, maybe none at all. So, maybe we're getting ready to see the end of mankind, and maybe God's just being like, okay, I'm gonna let all these beings just die off because that's what needs to happen. So, God's not really like killing us all like he did previously, but he is slowly but surely creeping into the point where he's exterminating us. And it might not even be God. It might be the enemy just trying to exterminate us. And, that's where we are right now. Things are getting really, really bad. We need to change. And I've been saying that. And you can even look on the internet and be like, yeah, we definitely need to change. So something to think about. Anyway, with that said, I'm out of here. Have a blessed day. Try to stay safe if you're in hurricane domain, because to be honest, it's the wind's picking up here where I am. So just be safe, and I will pray for you guys out there that the hurricane goes a different direction or just subsides. But anyway, take it easy. God bless you, and pray, 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 and take it easy.